Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning. It's 6:06. It's O'Connor and Company, and we are ready to fly through the next 3 hours for you with so much going on in this news cycle. Glad we've got each other through it all. Coming up in 30 minutes, Cal Thomas will be joining us at 7:05. J. Christian Adams about some changes to how we tabulate our ballots here at the last minute. At 7:35, Brendan Carr on Soros buying up some radio stations, including talk radio stations. And at 8:05, Peter Navarro will join us. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
We are not owned by George Soros, by the way.
No, we're not.
We are not. We are owned by the corporation, publicly traded corporation known as Cumulus Media. Why is that funny? There's no punchline
We are
there.
not owned. We are not owned.
Well, no, when I say we, I mean this radio station that you're listening to. This is, Cumulus. What proud to be in the cloud, as they say. Cumulus. Now there is another radio station, radio company. There's multiple companies that own radio stations. We've got Cumulus sitting over here. You got iHeart. You hear about them a lot, right? You got Salem. You got, I'm just not going to name them all. I don't know why I even started down this road. Can't forget Cox,
I'm not
though.
sure either.
Absolutely, Cox is one of them. And then you got Odyssey. Now, Odyssey used to be known as Entercom. And before that, most of the radio stations were CBS radio stations. Just like us. We used to be ABC radio stations. ABC then bought by Disney. Then Disney sold off the radio stations to some company. Citadel. And then Citadel was bought by Cumulus. What? This is why I'm just explaining.
I'm sorry. I just fell asleep.
Because people think WMAL since, the 20s here in Washington is like, no, it's changed hands multiple times. And that's what's happened in the world of corporate radio. There's been a lot of conglomerates that come in and they merge and then they split off and they do all this stuff. I'm giving you that background to explain that what was CBS Radio then became Entercom, then got spun off and got called Odyssey, has now been purchased by a multinational group headed by a gentleman named George Soros. So George Soros is now getting into the communications business, and he has obviously seen the value of radio. But most disconcerting from my perspective is that this company owns a lot of talk radio stations. Not here in this market, not in Washington, D.C. They've got a sports radio station here, I believe, and a couple of music stations here, but not news talk radio. But in some cities, George Soros is now lined up to be the owner. And, when you purchase radio stations, each of those radio stations has this is important information that people don't get anywhere else, okay?
Now I ruined it. I was not giving you a bored look. I was actually interested. I'm sorry, I've ruined this whole thing.
When you purchase a radio station, you are also purchasing a federal license to broadcast in any given city. And that change of ownership needs to go through an approval process, lest some nefarious organization or entity purchase something as valuable and powerful as a license to broadcast on the public airwaves and then do something evil with it. So that's why we have a Federal Communications Commission headed by multiple appointed commissioners. One of them is Brendan Carr, and he spoke about this purchase in Congress recently, and I want you to hear what he had to say.
There's a transaction where a Soros-backed group would take ownership of over 200 radio stations across 40 different markets after the FCC originally indicating that transaction could be reviewed and approved at the Bureau level without a commission vote. It's now become clear that is a decision before the full commission, and it's one that I would assume now or in the near future the commission would approve. I think what's interesting about it is that the FCC here is not following its normal process for reviewing a transaction. We have established over a number of years one way in which you can get approval from the FCC when you have in excess of 25% foreign ownership, which this transaction does. And it seems to me that the FCC is poised to create, for the first time, an entirely new shortcut. I'm
going to pause him there and let him finish, but in case, because, sometimes when there's testimony, it sort of gets a little convoluted. There's a rule right now that an entity that has more than 25% foreign ownership cannot own radio stations that have a federal license.
Right.
The FCC is breaking that rule on behalf of this group headed by George Soros.
Of course. Of course.
And how they're going about doing it is even more interesting.
Yeah, thank you. As you pointed out here and previously, these proceedings for transfer of ownership have been expedited. What exactly makes this case so deserving of an expedited proceeding so far, from what you could tell?
There is nothing about this transaction that is out of the ordinary. It's the type of thing that we see all the time, and the FCC has a process for this. The full commission itself has never signed off on a shortcut like this. What we usually do is we require people to file a petition with us. We bring in national security agencies. They can review the foreign ownership. It's probably no big deal here, but we review that foreign ownership, and then we vote. Here, they're trying to do something that's never been done before at the commission level.
Never been done before, but they're doing it in this case, this one and only case, and they're fast-tracking it so that the transfer of ownership will be finalized before the election.
Of course. Wow.
Oh, by the way, one of the stations in question here, when I said they don't own any talk radio stations here, but they do own a radio station, WPHT, a big station, a legacy radio station, heritage station, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Nothing to see here, folks.
Last I checked, Pennsylvania was kind of an important station.
You know, it's very interesting, Larry, because, one thing we always say is, the right, there are some cable shows, and there's obviously some new outlets, sort of online based, like Newsmax and other Salem and other.
Conservatives are making inroads in new media. Yeah.
Yes, but on cable, it's Fox. That's it. But we've always sort of said, but we have talk radio.
Right.
We have nobody does talk radio like the conservatives.
Right.
So this is very interesting that Soros is attempting to get into something that conservatives really sort of own.
They have tried for years to come up with liberal talk radio. Decades.
Yes.
For decades, they've tried liberal talk radio. It hasn't. They have NPR. But which has to be subsidized, of course. But other than that, they've never been able to do it. It just doesn't work. And so now, is it too far-fetched to think that instead, a billionaire who can afford to lose a ton of money will just buy the radio stations and then just let them die away? Like, he doesn't have to do anything with them.
Fascinating.
Right?
Yep.
We're going to talk to Brendan Carr, the gentleman you just heard there, the commissioner of the FCC, who is warning about the process here. He's going to join us at 7:35. Meanwhile, while all that is playing out, Julie, yesterday, Tim Walz, that down-home country bumpkin, flannel wearing, fixing the air filter in my pickup. Everybody mind your own damn business. I'm just a teacher and just a regular guy.
Not a commie.
Yeah, he was had a special meeting with George Soros' son in his high-rise penthouse Manhattan lair. Sitting there with George Soros's sons. What's his name? Alex Soros?
Alex.
With his fiance, Huma Abedin.
Who was Hillary's
number 2, let's say, or number 1 maybe even. And the ex-wife of Anthony Weiner, of course.
Yes.
The two of them hosted Tim Walz there in the evil lair in Manhattan. And
just a regular guy,
just
sitting there.
Nothing says home Midwestern country living like the Manhattan skyscraper evil lair of Alex Soros, the international billionaire.
The penthouse on top of the skyscraper, just hanging out. And let me tell you, Tim Walz does not look totally comfortable in these pictures.
I think he looks a little too comfortable, frankly. Brendan Carr, FCC Commissioner, talk about that Soros transfer of radio stations to Soros's control coming up at 7:35. Listen, it's all happening before our eyes, guys. All we can do is tell you about it, and then we'll just watch it happen, I guess. 6:15, WMAL traffic. Julie Gunlock, quick word association thing, right? I'm going to say a word. You say the first thing that pops into your mind. Are you ready? Got it? Good. All right,
yes.
CGI.
Fake.
CGI, fake. There you go. That's right. That's a perfect answer. Fake, phony, deceptive, illusion, trick of the eyes, right? CGI they use in the movies and everything.
Yeah.
You're wrong. CGI stands for the Clinton Global Initiative.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Actually, I guess you're right, because it's fake.
Perfect.
CGI does nothing. The Clinton Global Initiative does nothing except
Much
launder.
like their marriage.
They launder. Right, there you go. Exactly. It's just made to look like one thing, but it's really something else.
Speaking of Huma. Anyway, sorry.
CGI is what they're calling the Clinton Global Initiative Conference this year. You know, it's amazing. When Trump was president, the Clinton Global Initiative, like all the money that came in through that foundation just dropped to the floor. It's like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton with the Clinton Global Initiative only raise billions and billions of dollars when Democrats are in power.
Yeah.
Channeling the money over to that apparent laundering scheme known as CGI. Well, yesterday, our CGI president, Joe Biden, brought the first lady there. He received an award from Bill, who is, by the way, still younger than Joe Biden, which I find hilarious. While she was there, the first lady of the United States, she did all the talking, by the way, when they went to visit the Clintons, said CGI 2024. She made a big announcement, Flotus did.
The reason I'm so glad that you invited me here today is this big announcement. So the Department of Defense has now committed $500 million to women's health, to women in the service, which then transcends to all women. And so I'm so excited about that. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. All right, so I have some questions.
Me too.
The Department of Defense is allocating $500 million for women's health research. First of all, the Department of Defense technically doesn't allocate funds for anything. Congress does that.
Yes.
Congress tells the Department of Defense how much money they have and what they're to spend it on. Now, maybe there's some discretionary fund, I suppose, but
$500 million?
$500 million? And again, what's it about? It's about women's health research. Defense? That's coming out of the defense industry budget?
Why do I have a feeling this is all about how we can get more abortions?
Oh, of course. Every time women's health is raised, it's all about killing babies.
About killing babies.
Or chopping off body parts.
That's right.
There's that part, too.
Yes, yes.
So the Department of Defense, while we've got service members right now who are struggling to pay their bills and have to go on food stamps because they're not paid enough to be in the military, they have found $500 million to allocate to women's health research. All right, now set that aside for a minute as if that's not enough. Why is she announcing this?
Well, the same reason she opened the cabinet meeting the other day. Because her husband has mashed potatoes for brains. Not that hard.
We have a vice president. We have a secretary of defense. We have,
you gotta,
Also, why is this being announced at the Clinton Global Initiative? Why is she going there to announce this international nonprofit, in my opinion, slush fund that moves money around for left-wing causes? This is not some donation. This is allocated, budgeted defense appropriations that's now being ballyhooed at the Clinton. If one penny of that, $500 million from the Pentagon, gets funneled into some initiative that Hillary, Chelsea, and Bill get their grubby little fingerprints on, I'm going to be outraged. Everyone should be outraged. There should be an audit and investigation right now.
It won't happen. You know who's not going to be outraged? You know who's not going to be curious about where this money goes? Jake Tapper and the rest of the mainstream media. I mean, it'll be great if one of us investigates it, or the Free Beacon, or, so-called right-wing media. But the corporate media isn't going to care about this. Think of what the Clinton CGI, what they did in Haiti, how they billions of dollars to Haiti, and look at that country. Heck, they're all trying to make it over here. Nobody cares about what CGI does. Nobody cares where this $500 million is going.
Cares.
I mean, I'm being a bit of an Eeyore.
You're right.
Here.
Nobody focuses on it, but we should care about it because it just appears to be so corrupt. But can I just read you the most insufferably left-wing Washington, D.C. paragraph ever written in the history of the annals of journalism?
Yes.
I'm just going to read it and let it sink in and let you absorb it. Are you ready? The Coalition for Mutual Aid in Sudan, which includes the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Global Giving, Global Fund for Women, and the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. will donate at least $2 million to mutual aid groups in the country by the end of the year, and it also pledged to raise another $4.5 million for those groups within the next 2 years. And
There's a lot of soy right there. There is a lot of soy.
You walk
being
into
eaten.
that room right there, and you are not walking out with all your genitalia. It's 6:23.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:36 on a busy Wednesday morning. They're all going to be busy. We're 41 days from Election Day. Voting is happening right now, for crying out loud. Get out there. Hey, I'm told that Vince Colonnese and his producer Corey and Ganamort are going to be out at a polling place in Arlington this Friday. They're going to keep doing these Arlington early morning, early voting events. That's very cool.
I've talked to people. They're popular. People are so excited to see him and Corey.
It's very cool. I'm very excited about it. Coming up at 7:05, J. Christian Adams can make sure that those ballots are all secure and counted. 7:35, Brendan Carr on what's going on with this Soros group buying radio stations up. And at 8:05, Peter Navarro, who was part of the Trump administration and has much to say about international trades, tariffs. It's a big part of the conversation right now. It's kind of a one-sided conversation in the campaign, though, Julie Gunlock, because the other side isn't really having a conversation. Kamala Harris and the Democrats still continue to actually answer any questions about what they intend to do or how they intend to do it. Cal Thomas, as a political reporter and someone who has covered political campaigns for much of your adult life, this is a remarkable thing. We're 6 weeks out, and there's still not a whole lot coming there in terms of policies and plans and even answering basic questions from Kamala Harris.
As usual, you're exactly right, Larry. I've compared this to an arranged marriage where neither the bride nor the groom knew each other. They just got together. That we're being asked to marry somebody politically we don't know anything about. This is the craziest election. I can't think of any other election in my memory, not only in my life, but in my memory, where we didn't know what one of the major candidates stood for, or she keeps flipping on the few things she claimed she used to stand for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just overwhelming.
Is the political calculation here to just be the non-Trump? Her campaign is not about what she is, it's what she isn't. Yeah. And she's just going to say, listen, I know you all hate Trump. Well, I'm not Trump, so vote for me. Is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it, Larry. This is why you get the big bucks. You're able to summarize things in just one sentence. It's really brilliant. That's correct, and that's the thing about Biden and Hillary Clinton. Same thing. I'm not Trump. I'm not mean. I'm not a bad person. Vote for me. That doesn't put more groceries in your basket at a reasonable cost. It doesn't lower your gas prices. Doesn't make your mortgage rate go down so you can buy a house for the first time. It doesn't do anything about the border. You look at the Oprah interview. Was that ever a joke?
Oh.
I mean, Oprah says, we're going to get the return of optimism and joy. Well, what have we had the last 4 years? Depression and pessimism? I mean, come on. Oh, and then my favorite part, I own a gun, and anybody comes in, I'm going to shoot him. Oh, really? I don't believe that. What kind of gun? That's what I would say. Is it a pistol? Is it a rifle?
And no one questions her. No one asks her details. Just like her, I worked at McDonald's. There's no follow up. There's no curiosity. But Cal, I'd be curious too. There wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for Kamala among voters, and not a lot of enthusiasm among other Democrats when it looked like she was going to sort of ascend to this nomination. But do you think that we're all trying to figure out who's in charge? Is it Jill? Is it? I personally think that Obama and Obama's people have been running the show for quite a while. Do you think that was a calculation as well, that Obama and his people thought she's malleable, we can control her?
I think he's the only president never to leave Washington after their term of the White House. He's still got that big mansion in D.C.
Yes.
And, I think he's running the show. He's still got staff people on there in the White House. She has no political base. As we all know, she dropped out the first time running for president. She didn't get a single delegate. She didn't get any votes. She has no political base. This is another anti-Trump election. Don't vote for Trump. He's going to ruin the world. He's going to ruin America. He's going to ruin you. And I just find it amazing that so many people want to vote for her. Oh, it's a woman. Oh, it's a woman of color. Well, come on. How about if she was Margaret Thatcher? The left would still hate her.
Cal Tubus, I'd love for you to comment on this unprecedented move from, well, it's not unprecedented, but it hasn't happened in over 40 years. Kamala Harris declining to participate in the annual Al Smith fundraiser dinner. This is always an important event to show the American people. Not only do they raise money for Catholic charities, but it also shows the comedy of our political process that, yes, we can beat each other up during an election, but we can have some fun, we can joke, we can shake hands, we can sit next to the Cardinal from New York, the Archbishop of New York. Here's Cardinal Dolan quickly commenting on it.
Yeah, we're not used to this. We don't know how to handle it. This hasn't happened in 40 years since Walter Mondale turned down the invitation. And remember, he lost 49 out of 50 states. I don't want to say there's a direct...
Is that a prophecy there from the good Cardinal from New York?
You know, I think I've always thought that this was a tremendous meeting, not just because of the political candidates, but as you know, Larry, Catholic Charities do some tremendous work with schools and inner cities and minorities and everything else. And that's the main reason that people gather, and that's the main reason people pony up so much money, so they can see the two presidential candidates and feel good about contributing to a tremendous charity. So I think she should have gone on that basis. Somebody could have written things for her. She could have read them. It could have been brief. But she is so uncomfortable about doing anything that appears to be ad-libbing that her people just want to keep her off the stage.
That may be it. I think also she doesn't want to sit and give credence to one of the most important pro-life entity on the planet, the Catholic Church, but also sitting there and having fun, eating dinner and telling jokes with Donald Trump actually confers the idea that Donald Trump is a human being and is worthy of some level of mutual respect. And I don't think she wants that. That plays against her entire campaign. They're dehumanizing Donald Trump.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, at the very least, she could bring a color picture of the gun that she owns.
Yeah. As always. See, you give me false praise by telling me that I'm pithy because you always land it, Cal. Thank you, sir. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you. All right, back.
It is 6:43.
Mark Levin, weeknights from 6 till 9.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
As you know, Julie, we've been covering the congressional races here around the D.C. area. We've got Virginia 10, you've got Maryland 6, and, of course, Virginia 7. All three open seats, all three getting a ton of attention, a ton of money. Really, three of the most watched congressional races in the country this election season. And that's why we were all tuned into WJLA last night, Channel 7, where they had a debate one-on-one between the Republican nominee, Derek Anderson, and the Democrat nominee, Eugene Vindman. So let's take a listen to Mr. Vindman's opening remarks. We got nothing. He didn't show up. He didn't bother to show up for a debate, the first televised debate of the campaign, and he just was a no-show.
And he actually had made comments a couple days earlier saying, I wonder if Derek Anderson will even show up. He kind of with this bravado, right? And then he's a no-show.
Here's how the moderator last night on Channel 7 addressed it.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Scott Thuman. Tonight we are hosting a debate for the 7th Congressional District in Virginia. Joining us is Republican candidate Derek Anderson. Democratic candidate Eugene Vindman declined to participate this evening despite a month of working to find a date that worked for both campaigns. We provided multiple offers for him to change his mind, but so far have received no response.
This is so insulting and so despicable, but also so typical of how they're conducting themselves.
Heather just added the cut 10 where Eugene Vindman kind of has this statement saying, if Derek Anderson even shows up, let's just listen to that.
By the way, and this isn't like a rally or something, but it literally, there's like a dozen people there.
He's not going to be able, didn't have two particularly good nights. We'll see if he shows up to UMW. But anyways, we're going to win. And I want to thank you for your support.
Well, he's referring to something. He says, let's see if he shows up to UMW, University of Mary Washington. I'm guessing he refers to there. I don't know what he was talking about because that's not where this debate was. But you're right. He's all bravado.
It's all this bravado. Let's see if he shows up, right? And I mean,
and then he doesn't show up.
He's using the strategy of Kamala Harris of not showing up, not talking to voters, not giving his platform. This is the same strategy as Kamala. It works for her.
As you know, Julie, listen, here's the thing. and everyone knows this, and let me just acknowledge it and say it out loud. You, Julie, are a fanatical right-wing ideologue. And it takes every ounce of temperance on my part to sort of balance you off a little bit and be as fair and balanced as possible. So if I could just give Eugene Vindman his due here. I mean, listen, he's running for Congress. It's first time he's ever run for office. It's not an easy job. He was probably out raising money. He was here's what I tell you exactly what happened, and I want to extend a little grace to Eugene Vindman. He was out going he was going door to door, and he was talking and thanking and commiserating and strategizing with all of his donors. And, Julie, when you're out talking to your donors for your political campaign, and then you got to get on a plane and fly all the way back from California to engage in a debate, things happen. And so
it's exhausting.
Exactly. It's understandable that when he was out in California raising all of that out-of-state money from L.A. and San Francisco, who's really funding his campaign here in Virginia 7, that, having an actual debate on the issues for the voters here, that's going to be backburnered, okay?
And and also, did he have a meeting with Zelensky? Zelensky was in town.
That's right. And who knows who was meeting with George Soros when Tim Walz was there up in the evil lair in Manhattan. The guy's got a busy schedule.
It's a list.
That's right.
It's a list, a to-do list.
Virginia 7 deserves better. The voters deserve better. That's the other thing. He barely knows the district, so he probably got lost on the back roads there trying to get to the TV station. It's not like he lives there or anything.
You're just full of excuses.
I'm just trying to be fair and balanced. 6:53.